Radio Evangelio. We're talking to Brother Sylvester Matthews here, Emeritus Pastor of Open Door Baptist Church, and it's been a privilege to have him here with us this morning. I'm glad he took the time to come and spend time with us. And so, Brother Matthews, as we continue to talk here just about goals and visions, which is the theme of our broadcast all day today, let's go ahead and get into the pastorate of Open Door Baptist Church.
Yes.
If you can just explain to us how that all happened.
Yeah.
And all that.
Well, Brother Joe Boyd, he was a well-known pastor and a well-known evangelist, and he came off the road to start Open Door Baptist Church there on Lake June and Masters here in Pleasant Grove. And he also, his great burden, he started with Brother Jack Howes. They started Baptist Evangelistic Schools of Texas. Well, he and Brother Howes kind of had a little spat. A lot of people don't know that, but anyway, it didn't last very long. But Brother Howes pulled out, and so Brother Boyd was left, there with the school, and that's where we came in. We came in to teach in the school, Bible college, and was there with him 4 years. So one day he came in and he said, "Sil," he said, "God's called me back in evangelism." He said, "Looks like people want you to be pastor." Well, they didn't. I'd made a few people angry because of decisions I'd made. They wanted me to fire a teacher, and I wasn't going to fire her because she was a good moral woman. They just didn't like her. And so eventually, make a long story short, they voted for me. I missed it. And deacons and Sunday school teachers, they were pretty much for me. And they couldn't believe it. So they had a vote two weeks later. I missed it by 10 votes. And so I was crushed because I knew God wanted me there. I mean, there wasn't any doubt about it. I knew it. I mean, so I went to Plano and started a church out there. And Plano was growing up. It was booming. I'd grown from 3,000 to 10,000 a few years, and then it was 10,000, 20,000 while I was there.
Right.
But God blessed out there. We built a church, and we were running over 100, maybe 120, something like that, in a period of 4 years, and no bus ministry. And we had all young couples, and it was a dream. I planned to stay there the rest of my life. But God just blew me out of that place. The church down here had closed up. They selected another pastor and gradually decreased in attendance. They moved out another location. Buildings were vacant. And God led me. I mean, it was phenomenal. And I don't tell this very much, but I had 3 specific dreams. I mean, they weren't just dreams about the church there. Well, God led us back there, and all the circumstances that led to that, it's too detailed to tell, but you could tell that God was working in it.
Right.
And so we came back and had our first service in 1966 there. September the 18th, as well as I remember. That's a long time ago.
Right.
September the 18th, and had our first service, and God began to just bless, and we began to see people saved. Another church leased the building with an option buy, and we had to move out. We wanted to buy it, but they wanted cash for it at that time. And we moved over here on Highway 80, 2 years. God opened the door up here. It was each one of these things, it's miraculous event that happened for it to happen. So we bought this property, 4 acres, and started here in, we moved in Halloween night, 1973. Wow. The building wasn't even completed. We didn't have an occupancy permit.
Wow.
And when the building inspector found out, he went through the ceiling. and then we were able to buy this 11. God opened it. I said, if I made a mistake in Plano. We had an opportunity to buy land. I mean, it was cheap, a couple of $1,000 an acre. And now it's, can't even buy it.
Right.
And so I said, if we ever get to a place, we're going to buy some land.
Right.
And so we got this 11 acres over here opportunity. And that was a miracle. And this 13 acres, that was a miracle.
Right.
And God's given us all this property. And I said, man, I'm excited about what God's done. It's God. It sure can't be me.
Right. And I think one of the other blessings that comes with what you're talking about is all the land is paid off here. So
Yes,
I mean that's another blessing
everything's
right now.
paid off.
So
And,
we're kind of reaping of what you sowed years ago, and that's great, because it gives a lot of opportunity for us to do what we need to do, and that's great. That's a blessing. So it's amazing how God used situations in your life,
Yes,
you know,
right.
to bring you here.
Right.
And I'm sure maybe he just molded you when you
Yes.
came here so
Yes.
that you can be the pastor that you need to be here
Right.
to the
Well,
the people.
he had de-starched me, you know.
Right.
I've been through so many humiliating experiences.
Right.
I can't get humiliated much lower anymore.
Right.
So we don't realize, but God, all these humiliating
Right.
processes, we don't like them.
Right.
And it's pruning. It's not
Right.
chastening necessarily. It's pruning.
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that I always try my best to practice is humility, but the problem with humility is getting the pride out of there.
Oh,
you
man.
know,
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
you can't go around telling everybody I'm practicing humility
Yeah.
because that's pride right
Yeah.
there. You know, so that's something that I guess God has
Yeah.
to show us that way.
Yeah.
You know, so.
When you get so, you're so humble that you don't feel worthy of even serving God.
Right.
And you say, why in the world did God choose me?
Right, right. And so, Brother Matthews, now, you know, talking about being pastor of Open Door, you were pastor here for 39 years, is that right? Or how many years was it?
37 and a half years.
37 and a half years.
1966 to 2004.
Okay. So, in the time that you were here as a pastor, now we saw how God worked in your life to
Right.
get you back here.
Right.
Now you had your flock here to
Right.
work with. Now, tell us about how God started working in your visions for Open Door here, like with missions and couples and all these other
Yeah.
things that you ended up
Right.
doing.
I've always had a special place in my heart for the Spanish speaking people.
Mhm.
And so I said, we need to start a Spanish church. And I had a fella here. He wasn't Hispanic, but he was, and he couldn't speak Spanish. And so he wanted to start working. I said, sure. So they started one over here. But I said, you're going to have to learn to speak. You're going to have to be able to speak in Spanish for these people, really, to communicate. That's what I felt like.
Right.
And so his goals weren't necessarily my goals. So he took the church and moved out. And that's when Ramon and them, they were part of,
Right. The
back
first,
there.
yeah.
And so we had, he moved over in Pleasant Grove, and we kept supporting him and helping him.
Mm-hmm.
But then I started, first of all, with Benjamin. Benjamin was just, growing at that time. He
Right.
gotten saved,
Right.
and but he'd have one, and then that person wouldn't show up. He'd have another one, and that person wouldn't show up. And,
Right.
he's having a hard time even getting a flock.
Right.
And so then Brother Israel Del Bosque came along,
Right.
and he wanted to start up a Spanish ministry. And so it wasn't the best situation in the world, but I felt, well, man, I'd like to, keep this thing going, to get it going.
Right.
So
Right.
they had just a few people, not very many, but then Brother Mendoza has come and has done a phenomenal job. Brother
Right.
Gerald came about that time,
Right.
and I think it's one of the greatest things Brother Gerald ever did.
Right.
Was, have Brother Mendoza come.
Right. And that was a blessing. It's been a blessing ever since.
Yes.
I know that happened back in 2005, I believe, is when Brother Mendoza came.
Right.
And
right.
so it's been going strong for about 12, 13 years.
Yes.
And it's been a
tremendous
blessing.
job. I've never seen anything like it. It's phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got a couple of hundred up there, hasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
for sure. I think they're running about 180.
Yeah.
The